Pretty much each and every year, there's a team that sort of comes out of nowhere towards the end of the season and gets a ton of hype for the following year. We saw that with Tennessee back in 2021 and 2022, and this year's team is going to be the Florida Gators. After a terrible start to the 2024 season, Florida figured it out, were forced to give the keys to one of the best young quarterbacks in the nation, and then they ended up going on a hot streak and return a ton of talent. Because of that, many people think that Florida could be one of the top teams in the SEC this year, and in today's video, we're going to preview the Gators. We're going to go through their roster, talk about last season, who they gained and lost, why they're getting so much hype, and I'm also going to give a game-by-game prediction for them. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and preview the 2025 Florida Gators. Okay, so going into last year, Florida was supposed to be alright. Billy Napier desperately needed to get winning, and they would face off with number 19 Miami in week 1. This game was at home and was not particularly close. Cam Ward carved up the defense, and Florida lost 41-17. After that, they came back home and played against Samford, and they won 45-7, but no one really cared. In week 3, they'd play against Texas A&M at home, and they would lose this game as well. Backup quarterback Marcel Reed came in and saved the day, and Texas A&M won 33-20. The fire Billy Napier chants were never higher than after that game, but then they'd string off some wins. They go on the road to Mississippi State and win 45-28, and then come home and beat in-state Power 4 foe UCF. They won that game 24-13, and Florida was now 3-2. After that, they'd go on the road to play against number 8 Tennessee, and one of the bigger rivalries in the SEC, and this game was extremely close. It ended up going to overtime, and Tennessee eventually won 23-17, and it showed that Florida still had some fight left. Nestled between all this was the fact that true freshman quarterback DJ Lagway had to step up after Graham Mertz ended up getting hurt. From there, they'd come back home and play against Kentucky, and they'd start finding their rhythm. They won that game 48-20, but sadly, they then had to face 4 straight ranked teams. The first one came against number 2 Georgia in Jacksonville, and while they ended up competing, they still lost by 14 points, 34-20. It wouldn't get any easier after that, as they then go on the road to number 5 Texas and get killed 49-17. At this point in the season, the Gators were 4-5, but then they would get hot. Number 22 LSU would come to town, and led by Garrett Nussmeier, Florida would end up winning 27-16, and they pulled off a big upset there. Then number 9 Ole Miss came into town the following week, and after what felt like about 15 interceptions in a row from Jackson Dart, Florida would hang on and win 24-17. They now had back-to-back top 25 victories, and now are also going to a bowl game. They then would play their rival Florida State, who was absolutely terrible last year, and they'd win 31-11. The Gators were 7-5 going into their bowl matchup with Tulane, who was one of the top group of 5 schools, and they'd kill the Green Wave 33-8. After a tough start to the season, Florida really did figure it out. They had a ridiculously tough schedule, but still managed to go 8-5 with a 4-4 mark in the SEC and a bowl berth. In terms of last year's statistics, the Gators were led by DJ Lagway, who had 1,915 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 9 picks. Graham Mertz ended up having those injury issues, and Aiden Warner also saw the field. In terms of the running game, Jaden Baugh led the way with 673 yards and 7 touchdowns. Montrell Johnson, who had been around for a while, had nearly 600 yards and 6 touchdowns, and Jacoby Jackson also had about 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. They definitely had a running back by committee approach, and they returned 2 of them for 2025. In the receiver game, both Elijah Badger and Shamiri DK led the way, as Elijah had 39 catches for 800 yards and 4 touchdowns, and DK had 42 catches for 783 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both those guys are now trying to make it in the NFL. And then behind him, you had Eugene Wilson III, Hayden Hansen, Aiden Mizzle, and Arliss Boardingham also become solid secondary receivers. In terms of the defense, Trikweze Bridges ended up leading the way with 69 total tackles. Tyreek Sapp led the way with 7 sacks. Jordan Castell had 9 pass deflections, and Bryce Thornton had 3 interceptions. The team was definitely pretty good. They ended up losing a couple of players to the 2025 NFL Draft, as the Gators sent 7 players off to the NFL, which included Shamiri DK, who went in the 4th round to the Titans, Cam Jackson, a defensive tackle who went to the Panthers, Jason Marshall Jr., a corner who went to the Dolphins, Shamar James, a linebacker who went to the Cowboys, Graham Mertz, the quarterback who went to the Texans, and then their punter went to the Broncos, plus Trikweze Bridges went to the Chargers. They ended up losing a good amount of talent, and they're going to have to try to reload this year. Luckily, they brought in a good recruiting class, as Florida's 2025 class ranked number 9 in the country, which was highlighted by Vernell Brown III, Ben Hanks III, and Dallas Wilson. They got 2 pretty elite skill players in this recruiting class, but that's mostly what they're banking on. Their transfer portal class ranked number 92 in the nation, and they only had 6 guys. They had Harold Stubbs come in from Florida State, journeyman quarterback Harrison Bailey come in from Louisville, Michael Caraway Jr. come in from Southern Miss, Kofi Asare come in from UMass, John Michael Stuyvesant coming in from UCLA, and Tommy Doman, the punter from Michigan. It seems Billy Napier has a strategy here, as he's trying to build from within and not necessarily do plug and plays at transfers, but in particular, I think Stuyvesant was a good pickup for them and could become their number 1 weapon this year. In terms of their depth chart, they're trying to build around quarterback DJ Lagway, who was the number 1 quarterback recruit in the class of 2024 and obviously took storm by the end of the year, but there are some rumors about him being hurt. Either way, I still think he's going to be the starter, and I think a lot of that is just smoke, and he's the number 1 guy, and behind him, you have Harrison Bailey, who's been around the block, and then both Clay Millen and big-time recruit Tramell Jones Jr. At the running back spot, they bring back their top 3 guys in Jacoby Jackson, Jaden Baugh, and Trayon Webb. Katie Daniels and Waltez Clark should also see the field, and while they do lose Montrell Johnson, I don't think they take much of a step back, and Florida could have one of the better running back rooms in the nation next year. At the receiver spot, they obviously lost both Badger and DK, but luckily they bring back some pretty talented players. J. Michael Stuyvesant comes in from UCLA, and I think should be their top weapon. Eugene Wilson should step up, and Khalil Jackson should also get plenty of reps. Aiden Mizzle, Dallas Wilson, Tank Hawkins, true freshman Vernell Brown III, TJ Abrams, and Nashawn Montgomery should also get opportunities to get on the field. Florida hasn't really produced a ton of big-time receivers in the last decade or so, and I don't think that changes a lot this year, as they're probably going to focus more on the ground game, but either way, they are slowly building at the receiver spot. Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter are getting first-round draft pick hype, and overall, Florida has a chance to have a really good offense. They are anchored by 2 big-time offensive line prospects, 3 good running backs, a really good young quarterback, and some weapons that I think all have a lot of potential. If Florida's offense truly is as good as advertised, they could be really good, and I think the defense will also be pretty good, but how will that lead to wins? Well, they have a pretty difficult schedule, as in their first game they'll play against Long Island University. I know this is the marquee non-con matchup of the century, but Florida should probably get by in this one. 1-0. In week 2, they'll play against Alex Golesh and the South Florida Bulls, who are one of the top Group of 5 programs in the nation. Sure, this game could be close until halftime, but I think Florida pulls away in the second half. After that, they will travel on the road to play against LSU, and this will show us a lot about both these teams. Garrett Nussmeier is getting Heisman hype, and LSU is hoping to bounce back after a tough end to last season, and this game is honestly pretty tough for me to pick. I think both of them have a good chance, but with this game being at night in Death Valley, I'm going to give LSU the slight edge. It's sort of the same story for me in week 4 as they travel on the road to play against Miami. I know Florida fans probably don't want to hear this, but I think they're also going to lose this one. Miami was really solid last year, Carson Beck is back at quarterback, and if they can just get a semi-functional defense, Miami has a real chance at going to the ACC title to probably play against Clemson. Who knows how that's going to work out, but I picked Miami to win in my Canes preview, so that'll put the Gators at 2-2. It doesn't really get any easier. They then come back home to play against Texas, and after getting blown out last year, Florida's going to be fired up. They're definitely not going to want to lose 3 games in a row either, but still, I think it's going to be close. Texas still probably has more talent top to bottom, and it'd be naive for me to think the Longhorns are going to take this crazy step back, and that's why I have Florida losing a 3rd straight game. I know Gator fans are probably not too happy with me right now, but that's honestly what I'm picking right now. I think they lose to LSU, Miami, and Texas, but then they get fired up and go on a run to end the year. After that, they travel on the road to play against Texas A&M, who's led by quarterback Marcel Reed. Sure, the Aggies were pretty good last season, but I think Florida is better, and they will go on the road and pull off an upset there. They'll be back to 3-3. They then come home to play against Mississippi State, and this game should also be pretty easy for them. Mississippi State is trying to build around Blake Shapen still for some reason, and Jeff Lebby might be in over his head. There's a real chance the Bulldogs are the worst team in the conference, and Florida wins that game, getting themselves back above 500. At 4-3, they will then face off against Georgia on the first week of November, and I think this will be a good game. For the most part, Georgia has completely dominated this series, but I think Florida puts up a fight here. I think Georgia's a little bit down this year, but it's still really impossible for me to pick against Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, and I'm going to say Georgia wins. At this point, Florida is now 4-4, and you guys are probably not too happy with me. but I do think they end the season very strong as they first travel on the road to Kentucky. The Wildcats are probably in the bottom 3 of the conference as well, and while Stoops' teams are typically pretty tough to beat, I think Florida goes in there and wins that game, and I don't really know what Kentucky's doing at the quarterback spot yet, so that'll get Florida their 5th win of the year. They then go on the road to play against the Ole Miss Rebels, who are breaking in a new quarterback, some new receivers, and hoping that their transfer portal additions hit. I like Lane Kiffin and think Ole Miss is really good, but I think they have a lot to come back from, and they've also been pretty inconsistent. I mean, Ole Miss dropped a couple of dumb games last year, so I think they're going to drop this one again. I think the Rebels are closer to 6-6 than 12-0, and that's why Florida goes on the road and wins. From there, the Gators will come back home and play against the Tennessee Volunteers, who in my opinion are also sort of in a weird spot. I think Tennessee is going to be good, but they've got to find some new receivers, replace their star running back, find a new edge rusher, and hope that Joey Aguilar picks up the system quickly. It is the second to last game of the season, so hopefully he will have figured it out by then. By the way, I think Florida pulls off the upset in this one. This would match last year's regular season total of 7 wins, but I think they're going to get an 8th. They'll play against Florida State at home, and I don't have a lot of faith in the Seminoles. Mike Norvell could be fired by this point in the season. I don't think Castellanos is a good quarterback, and Florida State has a lot of mountains to climb if they want to be good this year, so I think Florida takes care of business and goes 4-0 to end the season. And that would put them at 8-4 and in a solid bowl game in which they could get a 9th victory. I know some Florida fans are probably going to disagree with the picks, but I find it really hard to pick them to beat either LSU, Miami, Texas, or Georgia. Beating teams like Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas A&M seems more realistic to me, but maybe DJ Lagway is that good. Or maybe he doesn't play. If DJ Lagway truly is hurt, then all this stuff is thrown out the window, and Florida could win maybe 3 or 4 games. Either way, Florida's one of the most confusing teams in college football this year with a lot of potential, but we'll just have to see how they do. If you're a Florida fan, what do you agree and disagree with? How will you guys do in 2025? And what's a storyline on the team I need to know about? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.